This is the COROS Pace 3, and after having used this watch for a month now on easy runs, long runs, interval runs, tempo runs, you name it, I think this might be the best budget running watch on the market, especially for those who want a lot of features and good battery life without breaking the bank. Let me show you why. My name is Caroline, and on this channel Run Letters I talk all about running gear, gadgets and events. So if you're interested in that, then make sure to stick around and make sure to grab my ultimate running gear guide in the first link in the description, and in that one you will find some really good discount codes. Now without further ado, let's talk about the COROS Pace 3. Now before we dive into all the pros and cons of this watch, let me just give you my one-line verdict in case that's what you're here for. I think the COROS Pace 3 really nails the sweet spot between features and price. It looks sleek, it is light, it lasts forever on a single charge, and it has all the features and data most runners need from a running watch. Sure, it's not perfect, but for the price, it is a hard one to beat. So I've used this watch for about a month now, and not just during my runs. Yes, I wore this watch on every type of run that you can imagine, but I've also just been wearing it while walking, while doing strength training, Pilates, and while sleeping. The watch has been monitoring my stress, how I sleep, and my heart rate all throughout the day and night. And coming from an Apple Watch, it is incredible to not have to charge your watch every single time and to be able to just track my sleep without having to think about low battery life. Like last night I went to bed, this watch was at 5%, and when I woke up, it was at 4%. And the way I wake up now is with the alarm on the COROS Pace 3. So you can set an alarm on here that either has vibrations or tones, like some sound, or both. And personally, I find the sound to be really annoying, but the vibrations are super strong. You will definitely wake up to those. All right, now let's do a little bit of a deep dive. First, let's talk about GPS accuracy. I am not a GPS nerd. I don't really care if my watch is 100% accurate or 95% accurate. For me, 95% is good enough. But I've seen a lot of people that do side-by-side comparisons of different watches and GPS accuracy on YouTube. And you can find multiple that look at the COROS Pace 3. So if that is really important to you, then I recommend that you check out one of those videos. But if you are like me and you think 95% is good, or maybe it's 99%, then I think the COROS Pace 3 does a good job. It has dual frequency. It seems to be up there with all the other watches. And if you go to the track, it does have track mode, so you can make sure that you hit your distances on the track correctly. Next, let's talk a little bit about the heart rate monitor on the COROS Pace 3. I think in general, running watches are not to be fully trusted when it comes to heart rate monitoring. I would always say it's better to use a chest strap or an arm strap. I have a chest strap, and I would say that the data that I've been seeing on the watch without using the strap is very similar to what I am used to see when I do wear the chest strap or when I was wearing my Apple Watch. So yeah, maybe sometimes it can be 1 or 2 beats off. In general, I've found it to be pretty correct. But I haven't done a side-by-side comparison of the two. So again, if that is super important to you, take a look on YouTube, find somebody that dives deep into that. If you just want to know if it is generally good, then I would say yes. Next, I want to talk about battery life. I think the battery life on the COROS Pace 3 is incredible, especially for a watch at this price. Coming from an Apple Watch, obviously I was going to be happy with almost anything because the battery life on the Apple Watch sucks. The COROS Pace 3 is really good. When charged to 100%, I can use this watch for about 6 to 7 days while doing all my runs, all my workouts, tracking all my walks with the dog, tracking my sleep, checking my heart rate every 10 minutes and so forth. So it's basically always on and being used a lot. And these are not just a few 10K runs. I'm talking about multiple half marathons and longer throughout the week. COROS definitely has a reputation when it comes to battery life. They're known to have good battery life, and I think the COROS Pace 3 really lives up to that. I think that with this, I can do pretty much anything that I want. I am running a 100K in spring, and I have no doubt that the COROS Pace 3 is going to be fine. So right now this watch is charged to 100%, and if I go into run and I want to just have a GPS run, it should be able to follow me for 25 hours, as you can see right there. If I then change the satellite mode on the watch to dual frequency, it was on all systems on, then we still get a good 15 hours on here. So it really depends on which mode I use. Maybe that would be enough for my 100K. I would probably just use the all systems on version, or I will use this. And when I sit down at some point for a little break, I will charge the watch. I do know that 15 hours is going to be enough for me during, for example, my 50K in Madeira. That is a place where maybe I would do want to do a frequency on. So let's talk a little bit about the screen of the COROS Pace 3. This watch has a always-on 1.2 mineral glass display. This screen is definitely less bright than a AMOLED display, okay, an AMOLED screen. But when I've been out and about in the sun here in sunny Portugal, I've never had a single problem seeing what it says on this screen. It is bright enough, you don't have to worry about that. You also can set a ton of different wallpapers on this screen through the COROS app. And honestly, there's so many really fun ones that are way more funky than what I have on here right now. So I think that's a nice little added feature. It is a touchscreen, but if you compare this to the COROS Pace Pro, I've been using the touchscreen on that one way more because of the bigger screen. It's also a lot faster. The processor in that watch is just a lot faster. And on here, I find the touchscreen to be a bit clunky and not to have a lot of extra benefit compared to just using the buttons on the side, the dial and the back button. They work fine, they work really quick. And I don't think you really need the touchscreen on this watch. Then let's talk a little bit about some of the other features of the COROS Pace 3 that I love. First up, when you order this watch, you can choose between a nylon band and a silicone band. I am a big fan of nylon bands. With the COROS Pace Pro, you get the silicone band, and if you want a nylon one, you need to pay extra for that to order that. You can also obviously get one from a third party through Amazon, but okay. I'm just happy that this one does come with a nylon band included. Big plus for me. Then navigation. The COROS Pace 3 only has breadcrumb navigation. And whenever I've seen this on other people's watches, I find it super useless. I never understood why you would ever use something like that. But I've actually found it pretty useful on the COROS Pace 3. I plan out my routes with Komoot, then I just sync them to the watch. That's very quick. It's done in just like under a minute. You can also create routes directly on the COROS app. That also works. And then when running, it will just buzz at you when you need to take a right or left. That can be a little bit hard when you're out on small trails, but so far I found it pretty useful. I definitely have to pull out my phone way less to check the route on there since I've owned this watch. Would it be better if you had full offline maps? Yes. Is this still useful? Yes. Then let's talk about something that made me basically choose COROS over Garmin, and that is COROS Evo Labs. It's where you can see all the data, all the metrics. I just think that the COROS app and this web app version of Evo Labs that they have is really, really good. It is clear, it's easy to navigate. I find it very satisfactory to look at, and that's something that I've always found a little bit annoying in Garmin. Garmin does give you a lot of data, but the way it's visualized for me doesn't quite work. And I love the way COROS does it. Besides that, the syncing of this watch to a phone or even the web app version of Evo Labs is so incredibly fast. I've never had to go into my watch or my phone to sync it. It's always already there by the time I basically open the app. It also works really well with the Runna app. I found that syncing this watch to the Runna app is 20 times faster than the Apple Watch, which would often give me trouble. And then last but not least, this watch weighs barely anything. I think it's like 30 grams, but I would have to check. When this is on my wrist, I barely feel it being there. Now, to just sum up the limitations, I would say the touchscreen on here is a bit meh. The processor is just not really fast, so using touchscreen doesn't make a lot of sense. And the screen is a bit small for touchscreen. I think you would use the touchscreen on a bigger screen a lot more. Then it also doesn't have advanced offline maps. So if offline navigation is super important to you, then you probably want to level up to COROS Pace Pro or any of their other watches. There's also no music streaming, no contactless pay. It doesn't matter to me, but maybe it does to you. You can control your music through here though. So if you are carrying your phone and you just want to like go to the next song or the previous song, you can do that. And then I would say that maybe the smaller screen to some might feel a little bit cramped. I can imagine that if you are a big guy, this watch is maybe a bit too small for you. As a running watch, the COROS Pace 3 absolutely destroys an Apple Watch. The battery life, the training metrics, the data, everything you get out of this watch as a running watch is a lot better than what you get on an Apple Watch. Compared to the Pace Pro, well, I'll save the deep dive for my comparison video, but I did end up keeping the Pace 3. For me, the price increase doesn't quite justify the extra features. I think the navigation on here is fine. It's not that often that I use full offline maps. And I don't really care for the bigger screen and the touchscreen and the faster processor. This is enough. And I think that's always going to be a little bit of a battle. When is it enough? For me right now, this functions. That does not mean that I will never switch to the Pace Pro. I think it's a really nice watch, and maybe in a year from now, I do want the extra features that that watch has. But right now, this is better for me. And besides that, I just really like the smaller aesthetic. So if the Pace Pro was available just slightly smaller, I would probably have kept that one. But right now, the bigger size just didn't feel quite right for me. I think you should buy the COROS Pace 3 if you are a little bit on a budget and you care about battery life and getting a lot of features against a really good price. And also if you're looking maybe for a slightly smaller watch. If you're looking for specific smartwatch features like tap to pay or Spotify or maybe other third-party apps, or if you are doing multi-day ultras. At that point, I think you want something with an even better battery life. Before I end this video, don't forget to get that ultimate running gear guide in the first link in the description. There are some really good discount codes in that. And if you have any questions about the COROS Pace 3, make sure to drop them in the comments because I will reply to every single comment there. See you in the next one.